The time has come for our grand rematch against the 4 Hoshidan Royals. These are some of the toughest maps in Conquest, but with the team we've built, we can crush each chapter in just 2 turns each. The key to our success is Corrin, who will cycle through the many classes he acquired throughout the run to match up well against the current chapter, while picking up skills he needs for the following chapters. First up is Sakura in Chapter 22. Sakura herself is actually just a side goal, with the main objective being to seize a throne guarded by Yukimura. Sakura drops a spirit dust, but she's quite tricky to reach, isolated in a room with a breakable wall all the way up at the seize points. It's possible to defeat her and seize in 2 turns, busting through the forts while lowering walls with dragon veins on both sides. However, it'll work out better for my run overall to ignore Sakura and the forts altogether, and instead have a few flyers sneak around the western mountains to rush Yukimura. So it may seem contradictory, but Corrin's reclass for this chapter is going to be Great Knight. Now Corrin needs a flyer to ferry him to Yukimura, but after just 1 level up, he'll learn Elbow Room for +3 damage. Corrin will need this for future chapters, and it's convenient to get it now, because Elbow Room on top of Great Knight's huge strength and axe access will also give Corrin his most consistent boss kill for this chapter. Alright, with his first reclass complete, it's time for Corrin to begin his domination of Hoshido. To open up the path to the mountains in the west, Elise triggers a Dragon Vein in the east. The only other action I have going on in the east is a mini training arc for Flora. She uses Freeze on the automaton with Ayumi, earning a little experience while setting herself up to fight 2 Omioji on enemy phase. As another side quest, Baruka flies Leo in range of the blacksmiths in the west to set up a capture for Niles, for a 4th shove or swap user. Now we can begin our advance. Corrin moves forward and lunges an Oni Chieftain, killing with Gunter supports. This lets Corrin level up and learn Elbow Room before fighting Yukimura.
You'll be alright.
After breaking the wall with Camilla, my goal is to get a pair of flyers separated in the north by the end of this turn. That way on turn 2, 1 flyer can ferry Corrin to Yukimura and then the other can seize. This will involve moving the pair of flyers 3 times on turn 1. To make this work, I'm going to have them move, get refreshed and rescued, and then move again. To set up the right pairs throughout this, I do some specific transferring. Camilla gave Corrin Laszlo while taking Gunter, then Azura took Gunter while refreshing Camilla and giving her Fumi, so Xander could take Gunter while freeing up Azura. So after using Swap on Silas, I can Shelter Sing to refresh the Gunter-Xander pair. Now Camilla can switch with Fumi to rescue a pair of flyers, in which one is Gunter, despite Gunter starting the map with Corrin. Lastly, Gunter flies north and separates with Xander, setting himself up to ferry Corrin to Yukimura, and for Xander to seize. The 2 end in range of some enemies, but that's okay, they'll never be able to block her path next turn. Azura has a chance to die and be unpaired with Niles. That could be nice, but the kill isn't reliable, so I'm going to act as if she dodged.
Together.
Capturing a blacksmith is the main reason I'm not using the clear that defeats Sakura. There would be just no room for Leo to weaken the blacksmith and for Niles to kill them, and getting 1 final shove user will ultimately help more than Sakura's Spirit Dust. It doesn't matter if Fumi dies here. Either way, we can still use her in next turn's transfer chain. With the Steel Shuriken and its defense debuff, Flora can 2-shot these 2 Omioji. There's a chance she crits on the first attack and misses out on the chip XP, but that really just doesn't matter. Flora has plenty more opportunities for training. Before dealing with Yukimura, let's wrap up our side goals. First, Flora finishes one of the Omioji she weakens. Then Perry and Elise team up to grant Flora another action, with Perry using Shelter and Elise transfer switching with Flora. With both Omioji kills, Flora reaches level 8 and gets +1 skill for +1 staff hits. Back to the west, I have Azura transfer Niles away to Silas, before singing for Corrin, who I had moved 1 tile forward. This lets Corrin reach Fumi and applies Inspiring Song for a +6 hit and +3 speed. Next, Leo finishes setting up the Blacksmith kill, getting him down to 1 HP thanks to Pragmatic. Leo is also applying Heartseeker, so Niles can get a perfectly reliable Bronze Bow capture kill, despite being terribly underleveled.
Alright.
Now we can move on to Yukimura. Corrin moves to Fumi, switches with Laszlo, and gets transferred to Fumi, while Laszlo applies Fancy Footwork. Then Fumi ferries Corrin to Gunter before applying Rally Speed. Finally, Gunter ferries Corrin to Yukimura, perfectly one-rounding with a Bronze Axe +1. Corrin can get this kill with other setups using the Grimiato, but that kill is only about 90% reliable, and I'm happy to hold on to my streak of near-perfect reliability since Chapter 15 for as long as possible. With Yukimura defeated, Xander can fly to the gate and seize. And that's Chapter 22 completed in 2 turns. Let's keep up the pace as we continue our invasion and advance to Chapter 23. This time we're up against Takumi, who guards the throne atop the Great Wall of Susanoo. This seize point is 34 tiles away, so just like last chapter, we need both a boss killer and a unit to seize to effectively move 4 times, which we can accomplish in 2 turns with 1 rescue use. However, the map layout and enemy formations are a little tougher to work around. The first action takes you below the ravine. This part is safe. The second action takes you below the wall, which is also safe, but you must have flight to make it across the ravine. Then the third action takes you up the stairs and straight into the middle of an enemy group led by Oboro. If she killed your units, they would revive, but then her group would block you off from reaching Takumi with her fourth action. You can probably sneak around Oboro's group entirely, but I have a much better idea in mind. Rushing Corrin to sweep them all on turn 1. This will earn Corrin a ton of experience, while clearing a path for him to reach Takumi on turn 2. The one problem this raises is that Corrin needs to be paired up for these kills, and can't separate someone forward. As such, we'll need to put in some extra effort to have a unit catch up with Corrin and get refreshed turn 2 to seize. To pull off his sweep, I'm finally having Corrin use his boyfriend support to reclass into Dark Knight. He needs tome access with high movement, and this is a perfect opportunity for Corrin to learn the Dark Mage skills that Odin supported him with those many chapters ago. As another long-awaited reclass, it's time for Selena to make her switch to Falcon Knight. I need one more promoted flyer to get across the ravine, and Selena is actually my last option. Besides Corrin, everyone else that can be a promoted flyer already is one. For other team changes, I just recruited Izana in the MyCastle. His Rally Magic will be a critical part of Corrin's damage stacking, and Rally Luck is also nice for +4 hits. Lastly, we have our new blacksmith, Kenshi, who needs 2 levels by the end of this part to learn Shove. His stats are actually kind of amazing, including skill, and he has both Bronze Sword and Hand Axe access for reliable damage and 2 range. Unlike Hiromi, picking up kills won't be a problem for Kenshi. Okay, we have our plans for Takumi all laid out. Now let's execute them.
Good.
First, Baruka bravely flies Kaze right in front of Rallyman's group. Their mission is to open a chest in the northeast. Then, after a rally from Izana and a swap from Haitaka, we can begin Corrin's rush forward. Just like last chapter, I'll have Corrin effectively move 3 times in one turn by moving, getting refreshed and rescued, and then moving again. For this, I need a Shelter Sing to also refresh Fumi. She can apply Rally Speed after chasing Corrin with her first action, then fly over the gap to rescue Corrin with her second action. The movement for this is pretty tight because we need to push Fumi all the way below the western set of stairs. Corrin doesn't need to be rescued quite so far forward, but Fumi needs to be there to chase after Corrin again next turn. Now Corrin can breach the wall and defeat one of the 2 paired up enemies on player phase. This way there's only 1 pair of enemies left, so Corrin will never be blocked off. We might as well choose to defeat Oboro, since we won't be able to kill her on enemy phase thanks to Warding Blow, and she gives more experience. Corrin earns his first level in Dark Knight and learns Heartseeker. That'll be great for a certain upcoming dodgy boss. So Corrin's in position to reach Takumi after his sweep, but to get someone in range to seize next turn, we need more units below the stairs now. To make this happen, I use a second Shelter Sing to fly Xander across the gap, and he can unpair Niles from Fumi, taking us from 1 unit below the stairs to 3.
We can do this.
I said the area below the ravine is safe, but that's technically not true. I've just barely left Azura in range of a sniper. Oh no, watch out Azura, you're gonna die! Finally, an enemy that can reliably kill and unpair Azura. And it only took 23 chapters. This Basara gets revenge on Niles for capturing his good friend Rallyman in so many alternate timelines. And Rallyman himself gets to kill Baruka, while his spear friend takes out Kaze. Their movement is random in this, but no matter where they attack from, Kaze will always be able to reach his chest next turn. By holding back Corrin's movements, I left him in range of the spearfighters to his east. This gets Corrin a couple extra kills, and to make sure they won't block off Fumi from following Corrin next turn.
Yes.
For his second level, Corrin earns Malefic Aura. That's another +2 for his magical damage stack.
This one's not afraid to die.
With Gunther supports, Corrin reliably 1-rounds and survives Oboro's entire group. So it may sound wrong, but Corrin is actually considered underleveled here, since he has about the same displayed level, but we promoted Corrin early at level 15. This, combined with Nobility, lets Corrin get a ton of experience across just 6 kills.
This one's not afraid to die.
It's not your time yet. Guess I did it right. This is my chance.
For Corrin's third level, he learns Seal Magic. This one won't be relevant.
Listen to your elders.
I did it.
Yes, good job Corrin, you did it. Turn 2, Kaze pairs back into Baruka, who flies him up the stairs to open a chest. The western one has 10,000 gold, but I choose the other for a second pair of boots. The extra movement will be important for my plans for the last few chapters. Before fighting Takumi, Leo can set up a sniper kill for Kenshi. Leo gets in on the Seal Magic action, sealing the sniper's magic after learning the skill himself, and then sealing his own magic because he used lightning. Leo also applies Heartseeker, so Camilla can have 100 hit while providing a big dual strike. And just because he can, Silas attacks another sniper using Kenshi's dual strike for 5 experience. Moving on, we need both Azura and Camilla to breach the wall. After her death, Azura is free to pair into Selena, who can fly her to Xander, and Camilla can pair into Niles. Niles can then ferry Camilla to Lunge a sniper, who moved to block our path above the stairs. Or, for the small price of a speed tonic, Camilla can just kill, getting a level up for a +1 skill.
Oh?
Fumi is then free to use her full movement and use rally speed on Corrin again. This leaves Fumi 9 tiles away from the throne. So after Xander ferries Azura to refresh Fumi while transferring over Xander, she'll be able to seize. Now Corrin moves to attack Takumi, getting in 1 range to seek his heart. Because Corrin swept with fire for 0 crits, he'll always have the guard gates to block Takumi's lethal counterattack, no matter how eager Takumi may be to land it.
Die already!
You're lucky I'm here.
Like you? Ugh. Yes.
After taking Takumi's life, there's nothing in the way for Fumi to seize. And that's chapter 23 completed in 2 turns. Corrin's position as a late-game magical powerhouse is fully established, and he's able to start learning level 15 skills. We'll keep that in mind as we move on to our 3rd battle in chapter 24. We're up against Hinoka, and compared to the other late-game chapters, this one is a breeze. The path to the throne is completely clear, with just 1 stretch of trees at the end you have to fly over. Our closest starting position is 31 tiles away, which is a little further than we can move in 3 actions, but Hinoka is kind enough to help us out. At the end of turn 1 enemy phase, she'll activate her Dragon Vein, which halves the base movement of grounded units, but boosts the base movement of flyers by 50% for effectively +4 move. This gives us the final push to reach Hinoka in 2 turns, with 2 actions and 1 simple refresh, no rescue necessary. The main challenge then is one-rounding Hinoka. She has an Oni Chieftain parrot partner that makes her surprisingly bulky, she's fast, and Wing Shield lets her benefit from the gate's 30 avoid boost, while also making her immune to flyer effectivity. However, Hinoka forgot to protect against one important weakness, beast effectivity. So what we want is a really fast, accurate beast killer user that flies. If only we built a unit for that exact role back in chapter 19. And then we also have to deal with Hinoka's Oni Chieftain. He has similar physical bulk, but he's not nearly as fast or resistant. All we need for him is a strong magical flyer. So naturally, I'm having Corrin go back into Malignite for this chapter. While he's flying around with tomes, Corrin can also take this chance to learn his level 15 skill to further his damage stack. Alright, we have the perfect matchups for this trial of flights. Now let's trample Hinoka. Before joining the boss group, Corrin and Fumi take a detour to sweep the western island to get Corrin another push in experience and tome rank. Silas ferries Flora to the northern island, so she can once again train against a small group of Omioji. This time, she'll be setting up kills for both herself and Kenshi. For the boss group, I'm going to send 2 pairs forward with the Shelter Sing, moving just far enough to get in range to attack the bosses next turn. The first pair is Camilla and Niles, as the team that will defeat Hinoka. The other pair is Gunter and Baruka. Gunter performs the shelter for the Shelter Sing, and then separates Baruka forward. She'll be the one to ferry Corrin to the Oni Chieftain, leaving Gunter free to rally. With this positioning, Camilla can just barely reach Hinoka next turn. However, someone has to be 1 tile further than Camilla to reach the seize point, which would leave them in Setsuna's attack range. We do not want to provoke Setsuna, as she might block Camilla's path due north, so we'll have to refresh someone to seize next turn. We do end in Izama's Hexing Rod range, but neither Baruka nor Camilla actually care about this. Between these 4 kills, Corrin's going to get 2 levels. He only needs 1 to learn his skill, but the more stats he can get for next chapter, the better.
This is my chance.
And that's Trample for plus 5 damage. The only mounted units left in the game are a few generics in the final chapter, so this will always be active.
I did it! Guess I did it right.
On top of the magic level up, this last kill gets Corrin C tomes with just 1 action to spare. Corrin will fight the Oni boss next turn, and then he immediately needs C tomes next chapter. Flora uses the Bronze Dagger to avoid killing the Omioji with a crit. Unlike in chapter 22, this would be bad because I want 2 of the kills to go to Kenshi. Because she got hit by the first attack, Flora can activate Icy Blood, weakening the second Omioji if they also land their attacks. This is unreliable, so I've made sure it won't matter either way. The third Omioji doesn't have a chance to be weakened by Icy Blood, because Flora blocks their attack with Guard Gauge. Hinoka's Dragon Vein is now active. The grounded movement penalty does make it awkward to get the Omioji kills, but I moved everyone close enough turn 1 to make it work. Leo further weakens an Omioji while using Flora's Dual Strike, and she finishes the kill. That gets her level 9, but we'll need 1 more level to get another point of skill. Next, Kaze could weaken a second Omioji if Flora hadn't weakened the Rabbit Spirit one with Icy Blood. We only need 1 weakened, because Kenshi can finish the other with Flora's Dual Strike. Azura needs to sing for someone to seize, so to get Kenshi another kill, I have Xander use Shelter, then have Laszlo transfer and switch. This last Omioji needed to be weakened by Icy Blood or Kaze, because now Kenshi is paired up and can't use a Dual Strike. That's Kenshi's first level up. Just 2 more kills for Shove. Moving on to the boss group, Corrin flies to Baruka and has Fumi transfer him over, leaving Fumi to rally speed for Camilla. Gunter's around to add rally skill, and then Niles adds his pair-up stats to let Camilla reach Hinoka for another flawless kill. She's a bit overkill on damage and speed now, but the hits is exactly 100 between all her skill stacking and Heartseeker. With Hinoka gone, Baruka can ferry Corrin to defeat the Oni Chieftain, transferring Baruka with Niles for the Guard Gauge, in case Corrin never dodged an attack. When Fumi moved to transfer Corrin, she ended exactly 13 tiles from the throne. So after Selena ferries Azura to refresh her, our Falconite can use her 8+4+1 movements to take Hinoka's spot and seize. And that's chapter 24, completed in 2 turns. Corrin now has every damage boosting skill he can hope for, and it's time to put them all to use as we move on to the final Hoshidan Royal in chapter 25. Ryoma seeks vengeance, and demands a duel with Corrin. Unlike every other chapter thus far, there is no focus on movement here. We just have to defeat the toughest boss in all of Conquest. Ryoma is even faster than Hinoka, has comparable bulk to the other late game bosses, and most importantly, only takes 25% damage because of the chamber terrain. For reference, that means to one-round Ryoma by quadding with a Brave weapon, you effectively need to one-shot Ryoma with each hit, and that's insane. Furthermore, only Corrin is allowed to interact with Ryoma, and you can't even give Corrin a para-partner, no matter how many times you might try. You can deactivate the terrain and reunite the army by playing the rest of the map, but that would take literally forever. We're much better off accepting Ryoma's duel and putting all of Corrin's training to the test. To be as strong as possible, Corrin takes after Odin again to reclass into Sorcerer. On top of its incredible 9 base magic, Sorcerer also provides a nice +5 hit and +10 crit boost, and will be fast enough to let Corrin double even without Hinoka's Speedwing. The stat booster Corrin will use is a Spirit Dust, which I bought from the tier 3 staff store for 10,000 gold. I could have saved this gold if I defeated Sakura earlier, but now that I'm at the end, I can afford a few big purchases by just selling most of my inventory. Because Corrin reached C-rank tomes, he gets a +1 attack boost and can now use Lightning, which I bought a second copy of to forge for +2 might. When you have to deal a lot of damage, Brave weapons are almost always worth using over stronger standard weapons. The last aspect to consider is skills, of which Corrin has acquired 11 throughout the run. The 3 damage skills we got this part are no-brainers. Elbow Room still applies, because Chamber Terrain technically doesn't have a terrain effect, it just heals. That's +3. Ryoma is a Swordmaster, so Trample takes us up to +8. And Malefic Aura will of course apply, so we end with a final stack of +10. Next, Corrin equips Heartseeker, which will take his hit from the 80s to 100%. Lastly, if Corrin needs multiple rounds of combat to defeat Ryoma, they can use a poison skill like Savage Blow to help chip him down. Even my Super Corrin doesn't have the damage to naturally one round. However, if we get some extra damage from, say, a crit, or even a Dragon Fang proc, then Corrin will be able to complete his conquest of Hoshido in one go. Before attacking Ryoma, Corrin waits above the screen in the south. The screen is only 1 tile thick, so you can still rally for Corrin at 2 range, and it's better to have Corrin attack once while rallied than twice without. And for one last time, I have the side goal to train Flora and to capture generic enemy. You can get a lot of experience out of this map since basically everyone is free to mess around, but because Flora and Kenshi are already close to their final goals, I can make this brief. Kenshi just needs 2 kills, and Flora just needs 1. Kenshi has a chance to die to the Master Ninja, but he'll always survive their first attack, and Camilla will always land her dual strike. Kenshi then dies to the Master of Arms, but that's okay. Flora gets her kill by finishing the Master Ninja in attack stance with Camilla. She doesn't quite reach level 10, but she'll be able to get the last bit of experience next chapter. Then, Camilla weakens the second Master of Arms. They switch to a katana, so Kenshi can't reliably kill with a hand axe like he did turn 1. So instead, Camilla uses the weaker Bronze Lance, so Odin can further weaken but still not kill them. So finally, Kenshi can reliably kill with a Bronze Sword. This turns Kenshi his second level up, giving us our 4th and final shove and swap user. Now we can move on to the rallies, which I want to apply from 4 units: Fumi's Speed, Laszlo's Fancy Footwork, Izana's Magic and Luck, and Gunter's Skill. The problem is, there's only 1 tile you can rally Corrin from, and that tile only has 2 open adjacent tiles. So you can easily shelter the first 2 rally users out of the way, but then you have to get creative to move a 3rd to open a spot for the 4th. My solution is to involve Azura in the shelter mix, refreshing Gunter so he can move himself out of the way, and Shelter Singing so Fumi can also move herself out of the way. With +4 magic, +5 speed, +8 luck, and +4 skill, Corrin is now ready to fight Ryoma. With the boots, he reaches to apply Heartseeker for perfect hit. With 35 speed, he quads, And with a final count of 55 magical attack, Corrin deals 9 damage per hit. That's a long way from the 65 attack needed to naturally 1 round, but this is the next best option. 9 times 4 deals 36 damage, leaving Ryoma with 12 HP. That's low enough for Corrin to secure the kill next turn, even after Ryoma heals up to 14 HP and Corrin's damage drops to 8 times 2. But put another way, 9 times 4 means Corrin just needs 12 extra damage to 1 round. A crit would add 18 damage, and with 13 crits, Corrin has a 42.7% chance to crit at least one of his 4 attacks to kill. And then, with my setup of 55 attack, a Dragon Fang proc takes Corrin's damage from 9 to 15 for 6 extra damage. Which means, Corrin can also 1-round Ryoma with 2 Dragon Fangs. The proc rate is 75% of Corrin's 30 skill for a 22.5% chance, which results in about a 22% chance to proc Dragon Fang in at least 2 out of 4 attacks. Put together, Corrin ends up with a 55.3% chance to either crit once or Dragon Fang twice to 1 round, and he has a guaranteed win next turn. And that's what I've got for Conquest's craziest boss kill. Let's not make Ryoma wait any longer.
Come on. Big brother. I won't surrender. You won't stop me. I'm sorry. You'll be all right.
And that's chapter 25 completed in 2 turns. With a 55.3% chance to win turn 2, and a 100% chance to win turn 3, we end with an expected turn count of 2.447, which I can just barely round down to 2.4. With that, we've completed the massive Royal Gauntlet, and our team is now fully trained for the final defeat boss endgame sequence. However, we're not quite in the clear just yet, with one last Seas map ahead that will be even crazier than everything we've seen so far. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.